Hey guys, it's Michael Patton. I am the Uber Theologian going out and delivering both food for the body and food for the soul. How's that? That's pretty good. I'm gonna have to start using that one. Um, I am doing. I'm as I drive, and again, I'm just delivering food, not necessarily for Uber or with Uber. It's just kind of a good way to say it. But as I drive, I am listening to a book right now, and the book is called "You Lost Me." "You Lost Me" is one of these books, about people that leave the faith and kids who leave the faith. In this particular book, so far, I haven't gone through the entire book, and I'm fascinated by books like that. I'm not as quite as much as I used to be, but I used to read every book that came out that discussed Christians leaving the faith because I didn't understand it. I don't understand it completely, but I really didn't understand it then. I think it made me very nervous at that point, and maybe the nervousness had to do with me being scared that I might leave the faith sometime. I don't know. It was just a fascination that came, I think, from an insecurity. Different now, a little bit different now. I mean, I'm definitely not as insecure as I used to be in my faith, especially after I went through my time of doubt back in 2010, which came over me like a flood. But as I read this book, it's kind of like offering these suggestions about what do we do in the church? How does the church fix the problem? And one of the main problems has to do with research, like Barna's research that says that 63% of kids that grow up in Christian homes and have a Christian upbringing, going to church, they end up leaving the faith or leaving the church. Not all of them leave the faith, but leave the church and stay away from the church. All kinds of reasons for that, and it gets me thinking about certain people. Joshua Harris was one of them. If you remember Joshua Harris, that was a big deal whenever he left the faith, and it was a big deal to me. I don't know where he's at now. I mean, I know he was a pastor. He was a writer and very prominent, but left faith. I'm not sure where he's at now. You have a guy named Marty Sampson as well. That was from Hillsong, and he left the faith, claiming that it had some, it had something to do with the science and the problem of evil and just stuff like that. There's all kinds of reasons why people leave the faith with regard to whether it's regard to the church or the faith itself. There's a guy named uh, Robert Robertson, and he wrote a song, and a lot of you guys know this song. It's a classic hymn. I think he was born in 17th century, or no, the 18th century, around 1730. But he wrote a song called "Come Thou Font." Remember that song, "Come Thou Font of Every Blessing"? I mean, one of my favorite hymns, still is one of my favorite hymns. And my favorite part in that song is "Prone to wonder, Lord, I feel it, prone to leave the God I love." And that is just it hits so deep within all of us. I mean, that it was a very brave line to write, because it expresses the human condition, that we in ourselves we're broken. We're prone to do things that broken people do, and that is leave God. And do other things, sin against God. And so and the sad thing is, the reason why I bring him up is because, and I'm not positive about this, you can research it yourself, but I'm pretty sure he left the faith because he became a Unitarian, and was no longer a Trinitarian. Now, there's a lot of debate about that, but he certainly had some leanings or some interactions with Unitarians toward the end. But anyway, the whole point is, what do we do? What is the problem? Whenever we're talking about today, it seems to be a significant problem. I mean, I'm admitting it's a real problem. It's not just the ebb and flow, but we're in the ebb of a real problem, and that is kids leaving the faith. Why are they leaving the faith? Has a lot to do with the generation. Has a lot to do with the all going all the way back to where you have the ability to travel across the world, and then the information that goes across the world from the news outlets, and then the internet comes in, and all of these people, now you're not prone to be in a certain community, that community is isolated. Now this community, we live in a worldwide community, and living in a worldwide community gives us more access to all kinds of things, not only other people, but information and knowledge and access to other things. Just the knowledge of it is something that is enough to fascinate people, to make them lean in certain directions and start to leave. Now, we say that kids leaving the faith is a problem, and in some sense I say yes, it is a real problem. It's a significant thing we need to look at. But in another sense, I mean, we've got to expect this kind of stuff to some degree. It's sad. We got to fix it the best we can in our own families, but we got to expect it to some degree, because we are we don't want people growing up in a faith where the community is isolated. And well, let's see here. Okay, where the community is isolated, and you don't leave the faith, not because you really are committed to it, but because it's part of your community, and it's always just part of, kind of the culture that you live in. And now that you got the options, people leave and explore other things. And we'd say, well, that's really bad, but is it really bad? Or isn't it worse that if they stay in the community and never really believe what it is that they're never really committed to it? So there's some sense in which having an openness and letting people leave, opening the front door of the church and saying you can leave if you want to, go look out there, see what is out there. And whenever people go look and then they leave, it's okay. I mean, that's what we got to expect. It's sad because we do have more open doors now, and we're starting to realize how many people really, that grow up in a Christian community aren't really Christians. The entire country of America now is really getting into a post-Christian place. We have the rise of the nuns. The nuns are people who do not affiliate with any church or any tradition. They may be spiritual, but they don't have a commitment to anything. And so it's not the atheists, it's not the Christians, it's the nuns. I don't want to associate with anything. So what is the problem, and what do we do about it? In this book, in You Lost Me, a clever name, is trying to build towards what the problem is and how to fix it. So far, I haven't really been impressed with their ideas of how to fix it, because I think it's somewhat naive. I really do like the book so far. I'm not criticizing it completely, but and I haven't finished it. But so far, I haven't liked some of the stuff, especially when they talk about, looking at the culture and trying to integrate more, be more relevant. I don't like the word relevant for relevance sake. But here's my thoughts whenever I think about people leaving the faith and how to prevent it. What's the best way to prevent it? And I would say there's two things. The first thing is whenever what the conception we have of the church, and this is going to come is nothing new to some of you guys or a lot of you guys. Of course, we all know this, but the conception we have of the church is this: a church is a building. Church is a place that we go. And we really have three questions: is a church a place you go? Is a church is something you do, or is the church something that you are? Is it a place you go, something that you do, or is it something that you are? And I think the answer is yes. I mean, it's all three of those. But the church that you go to only serves as an outlet for the others. It is in some sense the least essential, but it is the most identifiable in our culture, even though we know the church, big C church, whenever you use a big C, it's the church universal. We're all the church. We're the body of Christ. And I don't think we really communicate that conception very well. I think we have the conception, even though we say theologically the church is the big C church, we really have the idea of going to church, and that's kind of completing the obligation of churchness that we have to do each week. Now, I mean, when we talk about church and them leaving the church, I think some of the things we have to do is really identify theologically the underpinnings of what church is. And church, and we have to keep this, we have to be committed to it from the church's standpoint. Within the churches, the elders, the pastors, whoever is involved in it, have to be committed to this. And this is this. I mean, you look in the Bible and you look at how Paul speaks to the churches that he writes. You have the church of Corinth, you have the church of Thessalonica, you have the church of Philippi, you have all these different cities that he writes to. Not the First Baptist Church of Corinth, not the Presbyterian Church of Corinth. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with denominations. That's not my spill here. I think our conception, the territorialization that we have, we're very territorial about our individual churches. Pastors and elders and people at the churches all, want to do everything and understand that they don't really see it as part of the Church of Oklahoma City. It's where I'm at. There is no Church of Oklahoma City. Who would Paul write to if he was writing here? He'd have to write to 5,000 different pastors, because there's so many that are not connected and never connect in any sense. Yes, they would confess that the church is the universal church and we're all part of it for the most part, but they want to act like it. Every single church feels as if that they have to be the be all to everything, and they don't really want to open their doors. They have problems whenever their people leave the church. What are they leaving the church for? Does the church communicate that within their community of churches that they are a part of that community, and that these pastors understand that they do something really well, but another church may do something better than they do? So everybody, let's say you have a church, just like we have here, we have a church that I know of that does evangelism very well. And that's where I'd send somebody if we're talking about evangelism. There's another church that does theology really well. That's their emphasis. That's where I'd send somebody if they're really kind of theologically minded. That's what they need at that point. There's another church that does worship really well. Another church that represents tradition really well. Another church that is a Bible church that just teaches the Bible. You see what I'm saying? All of these things, and you get territorial and you think you have to choose which one is the best and which one do you stay at, and you become members and you never leave. I don't like that kind of attitude. I like the attitude that you have a community of churches and they are the church. And this community of churches works together with people, and they always have open doors, because you're assuming that people at some point in their life may need something different. I grew up very much in a Bible church all my life. And then whenever I kind of hit this period of my life, I was lacking something else, and I knew it. There was nothing wrong with a Bible church, and there was nothing wrong with what it was doing. It needed to keep on doing exactly what it was doing because it did it well. But I went to another church, and then I experienced a tradition I had not seen before. And I was really excited about it because it deepened my faith in a new dimension. And I like that. But whenever I go to a different church, the church that I was at is offended that I left and went to this church that had more tradition. I'm just using these examples. But there was another one that we'd talk about with whenever I went to one that had a really good worship. And I never really seen worship from people, from believers that all really believed what they were seeing, but yet sang it with such might. And I'd never been in that. Beforehand, I'd criticize it. I would think it was stupid. I would think, why are these churches doing it? They need to do it the way we do it. Do it the calm way, not the excited way. But the thing is, there's not a right or wrong whenever it comes to all of these things. There's a theological foundation that all the churches have to have, but the expression of that is going to be different. And so many people are different personality, but whenever you have a territorialism that is built in to your church society, people, they don't know what to do whenever they need something else, and they just end up leaving because they're not getting what they need anymore, and they don't think any other place is available to do that, or that if they go to another place, they'll be territorialized at that place as well. We need to be a bigger community. The churches need to be a bigger community. We need to teach that, at least of the people that are going to church, and let them leave, let them go to different places, let them find expressions at different points in their life to give more dimensions to their faith. That's important. And then another thing, the first thing I think the foundational thing, and everything I'm talking about is kind of foundational, theological foundation, how you think about these issues beforehand will really provide the basis for